Good morning, guys. It's Chunk. I just want to do a quick video today about optimizing your gameplay, trying to bring like the best DPS that you can to a raid or a Mythic Plus, and some of the things that I do personally, although obviously this is not going to be an exhaustive list and everybody does things slightly differently. So I'm on my Warlock. My Warlock is eye level 398, almost 399. I raid with him usually once a week, pushing DPS in my main raid, and it's a lot of fun to play. I normally float between Destruction and Demonology, but that's neither here nor there. So this is going to be, I hope, kind of universal advice on what you can do just to be a little bit better and optimize your gameplay and be a little bit more efficient. So first of all, I think the best thing to do is come over and whatever your chosen spec is, have a few different builds per fight. So if you're looking at like a general, like I have a raid fight, and this is mainly for like single targets. So this would be like Taros, or even like if I want to like really focus on single target image on Raz, this is the build I'm going to use. But if I wanted to do something a little bit more AoE centric, you can see here, I can switch this out. So maybe I would use this on Council or even Kurog where there's some cleaving, things like that. So just, have a couple of different builds that suit the fight instead of having one generic build. And that way you can, again, just be a little bit more tailored to the fight. And you've got plenty of loadouts. You can switch them really, really fast in the raid. And Mythic Plus, it's a little bit different. You can't switch your build without having the zone out. But even then, like on Temple the Jade Serpent, the entrance is really close. So you can switch out if you need to. But in there, yeah, you definitely want to play more towards Fortified or Tyrannical Weak. And tailor your build a little bit more generically towards those weeks. But even then, I play Tyrannical a little bit different than Fortified, vice versa. A lot of people do. So have different builds depending on the fight that you're doing, so you can be a little bit more optimal in your performance there. I would say the second thing to do is come over here, and this is Valdrakken, and unlike Shadowlands, you've got AE dummies, single target dummies, tanking dummies, healing dummies, all conveniently located. It's really nice. In Shadowlands, like a couple of different covenants would have that, but not all. And it was really annoying. So now you have all that here in Valdrakken, and just really work on your rotation. So just come in here and just, spend a few minutes just working on your rotation, really kind of getting it down, learning the ins and outs, trying to figure out like what combination of key presses for your rotation is going to be the most effective to give you the best performance possible. So those are things you're just going to learn over time. But like, again, it's just really important that it becomes almost muscle memory. So the point where you're just kind of hitting the keys, knowing what you're going to do, and it just really helps your performance overall. So that would be what I suggest. Like, again, I'm not really paying too much attention here, but like even just not paying attention, I can easily on 5 targets hit over 100k DPS on Destruction sustained, and just kind of mindlessly do it while I'm talking to you guys. So just again, work on your rotations a bit and come in here and then use the cleave dummies, come over here and use the single target dummy, and really kind of just get your rotation down to a point where it's muscle memory. And you can do that. I think most people will do that over time anyway, but again, tailoring your builds, learning your rotation, and then making it part of just kind of your muscle memory where it helps. That's a great thing to do. And those are kind of the big ones. I would say after that, there's a couple other things you can do, and we'll take a look at that now. All right, I'd say one of the things that you could do right off the bat, and I do this all the time, especially as I'm looking at those different specs and loadout, is if you got Simulation Craft installed, and this is something I've talked about in a prior video, is taking your build and then taking it over to Raidbots. All right, here I am in Raidbots. I actually switched over to Demonology because I wanted to get a better look at a different spec, since we just went through the cleave spec in there. But I pasted this in from SimC, and I'm just going to run a quick sim, and this will kind of simulate me going through combat. I choose Dungeon Slice, which I know is not necessarily going to be the most accurate. It simulates a few minutes inside of a Mythic Plus dungeon, including a boss. So it kind of tries to give you like what it would look like to be a part of that. Again, as long as you're treating every run of the simulation the same, then it creates a good baseline, and the variable is just going to be your spec or your gear, and not necessarily the simulation. Though that's going to be your, your constant in this little simulation. So we'll let this run, and again, it's really nice to be able to come in here and just switch out different talents and run them through SimC versus like maybe spending several minutes doing a cleave and waiting, going into a target dummy area, blowing all your cooldowns for 5 minutes, and then having to change your talents, waiting for all your cooldowns and all that, and then doing it again. That can take a little bit longer than this, especially if you're trying to test several different talent builds all at once, or if you've got a different piece of gear that you've just acquired, or you're on your Great Vault on Tuesday, you want to see which maybe what gear might sim better than others. This would be a decent way to help you iterate through those different things really fast without spending a whole lot of time in game itself or just guessworking. So now that the sim is done, we can see that over the course of a several minute fight inside of a dungeon, Raidbots thinks we're going to do like 83,000 DPS. I mean, that's not that, that's something we can look at here. If we go into the HTML report, this is the actual full report, and this will give us a little bit better of like why it thinks we can do this. So if we look here at the damage per second, we see these spikes of like 170k. These are like implosions, probably, yeah. 200k at around the 3 minute mark. So it just depends on the dungeon, and you can see where the majority of our damage is coming from. And here's the different damage stats coming out of there. So again, it breaks it down for you. So overall, over the course of several minutes, we're averaging in like 83k, but you can see these spikes of like, 6-figure spikes whenever we're doing massive implosions. Again, it's simulating time inside of a dungeon, so it's not perfect, but this helps give us an idea. So Raidbots is a really good place where you can come in and just do different simulations and kind of just see where things are ending out. And there's another website that I use quite a bit, and I'll switch over to that now. So this is the other website that I use quite a bit. This is a WoW Analyzer. I'll have the link in the description below. But you can come here and basically look for your character, or you can just input the log directly, but this is a way to do it. And then search. And it'll go into Warcraft logs, and you should be logging everything, especially for your rating, and like pull the last few fights. So I'll pull like this normal council that I did a little while back. And it'll go through and just look at your performance, like where you're using your core spells, capping on soul shards because I'm Warlock, where I'm using my cooldowns effectively. Here, I could have used my cooldowns a little bit better, using my defensive spells, always be casting, etc. And here are the suggestions that it's getting from that is, I could have cast more soul strikes. I could have cast demonic strength more often. And here it's, could I use a sharpening stone? I'm a Warlock, so that's not really going to matter. I didn't pop a combat potion because it's normal, and I don't want to waste money necessarily on a normal. Also, that's why I didn't use a flask. So it kind of tracks these things for you. It goes into statistics and tells you, like, here's your DPS, here's your HPS, damage taken per second, downtime, things like that. I think I died during this fight. That's why my DPS is a little bit low. Here's all the things that you could have done. Like, I should have had a demonic circle down maybe, or a gateway down in order to traverse to clear marks or something. So those are all things that I could have done a little bit better. Here's my timeline of like things I did during the fight, tracked my soul shard usage, all my cooldowns, etc, etc, etc. So this is a good way just to come in here and quickly kind of like, what could I have done just a little bit better? How could I have improved? And that's what all of this is. It's not necessarily trying to tell you exactly how to play. It's just taking your existing character and saying, okay, if I tweaked this here, if I had a different build, like on this dungeon or this particular boss, if maybe that would have helped me perform a little bit better. And if I would have maybe necessarily like simmed out different scenarios, I would know going in, like for this particular dungeon or this particular boss or this style of boss, this is the best performing talent build for that. And then I can look back historically and say, okay, I should have, maybe cast this ability more often or this ability more often, or maybe I should have flashed, or maybe I should have done, a combat potion. And then I can go in here and look at my timeline and say, did I do that effectively? And you just take all these tools and you put them together. And I think that's going to help you just become a better player overall and just improve your performance. And they're really minor things. These are things that anybody can do. You don't need to sit there and play the game 12 hours a day. These are just things that anyone can do that's going to just slightly push them over the edge and hopefully make them a little bit better player. And that's all we're trying to do at the end of the day. You're spending a lot of time playing WoW, you might as well get the best out of it. So that's it for me. I'll see you next week when we do our next Great Vault. Hope you found this video informational and helpful. Talk to you guys later.